Good morning, guys. I'm Chris, and welcome back to this Sunday's episode of Rift Amps.
JCM 900 on the bench. We'll just give it a quick check over. It's surprisingly clean inside. I don't see anything that stands out as immediately a concern other than the cap cans are starting to bulge at the vent holes. But the 33 microfarad cap on the board looks okay. So we might have a conversation with the customer about swapping those out as preventative maintenance. But it is, as you might be able to hear, running on the bench. So this is the channel that the customer says does work, channel B. And I've currently got it running at 25 volts RMS, so 25 puts us 78 watts into 8 ohms. And we'll flip the switch to channel A, which is the one he says doesn't work. And as you can see, just turning the channel A volume there, it is working and puts out healthy voltage as well. Not sure. So I think the best thing to do is keep soak testing this, see if we can get this thing to play up. It does need, however, a jumper in the effects loop. If I remove the jumper, you'll see output pretty much disappears. That's out now. Go back to the second channel. Again, very low output there. Put the thing back in. So we're going to have to sort that out, clean those contacts up. But to be honest with you, it's always a good idea. If you're not using the loop, just have a jumper in anyway, just as a redundancy. But it's running fine at the moment, so I'm not really sure what to do for the time being. I will obviously soak test it, get this thing screaming hot. It'll have a good couple of hours this morning on the bench. And we can see if we can get okay. Just tweaking this pot, the loop level pot, and our signal is jumping in and out. So that pot definitely needs a clean. In fact, can I get it to go without the loop in place? No. Sorry, the jumper. But you can hear that. Not happy whatsoever. We'll get that sorted anyway. But yeah, there you go. What is it? JCM 900. It's dated 25th of April 1990. So now 34 years old, I think. Yeah. So yeah, we'll just leave it running. Let's just double check. At idle, we're pulling 150 watts out of the wall. What do we need for 100 watts? 100 watts, we're going to need 28.5 volts. Well, there you go. That's 100 watts. So it does 100 watts clean easily, just clipping at the top and bottom there. And at rated output, 311 watts out of the wall. So anyway, we'll leave this running on channel A. All the tone controls are at noon. Zoom you out. See if we can get this thing to play up.
Okay, mystery box time. This is one of 3 amplifiers that people called Andy or Andrew have said they would be sending into me for service and repair. So it could be any one of 3 amplifiers that I am expecting. So let's get this thing open, have a look. It's quite a small box, measuring 60 centimeters, 24 inches, so about 75 barleycorns by 15 inches, so about 45 barleycorns. There you go. Good old British Imperial measurements for you. Let's get this thing open. Let's have a look inside to see what we've got. Nicely wrapped. Do you see what I see? Croc skin Tolex. Okay. Here it is then. What is it? It looks to be so we've got volume 1 or channel 1 volume, push pull cascade. Second channel, again push pull, treble, middle, bass, master and brightness. We've got on off, standby on and off, and solid state or tube rectification. Okay. Any ideas what you think this is? Let's spin it around and have a look. Wow, it's a Park. So this is one of the modern Park clones, reissues. Not entirely sure. Entirely sure? I can't talk today. That's embarrassing. I'm not entirely sure. But I think it's a Mitch Colby, isn't it? Made in the USA, dated. Oh, I don't know. Does that mean 2020? Ah, yeah. Inside here, there's the label that says it's either the 7th of August or the 8th of July. Who knows? I think it's a PLH18. Plexi Little Head 18. I think it stands for custom. So we've got a loop with a bypass switch. We've got an impedance selector switch on the back. We've got 2 speaker sockets. We've got an IEC with the mains. Lovely, thank you. And we've got HT fuse accessible on the back. So let me dig out the email and we'll have a read to see what the problem is. Right, okay, so found the email from the customer. He said the amp is a Mitch Colby Park Little Head 18 from 2020, which is basically a lower powered JTM 45 with some tweaks. It can take KT66s, as installed here, EL34s, 6V6s and 6L6s. I've tried all at some point except the 6L6s, but eventually settled on the KT66s. Right. Until today, that is, when I fancied a change. So I installed EL34 valves into the amplifier, ones that he'd used before, albeit some time ago, and straight away the rectifier valve, this one over here, which is a 5Y3. You not think it should be a GZ34? Anyway. And straight away the rectifier valve and the V4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, this one, started glowing blue, which they don't usually. I thought it was maybe the rectifier, so I switched to solid state rectification and the amp went bang. In hindsight, switching to the higher output diode rectifier probably wasn't the best idea. Looking inside, it looks as though the screen resistor has blown and has taken out the cathode bypass cap and some wiring, as far as he could tell. I'm hoping, or he's hoping, it's not more serious than that. I've attached a photo of the damaged V4 on the left under the effects loop board and V5 on the right. So here we go. So here's V4. We can see looks like a cap's exploded in there. Something's happened. So when we get this amp open, we can have a proper look inside and see what's going on. The amp has a full complement of valves. He's put the KT66s back in. So all should be good there, but please be aware the rectifier valve was the one that was in when V4 blew. So don't know for sure if it's good. Okay. Could I ask that while you're mending the poorly bits, you also give it a full health check and let me know if I have any recommendations for the amplifier? Could I also ask that you keep an eye out for anything that may look like it could cause some earth issues? I run 2 amps and seem to get excessive earth conflicts, earth and ground loops. It's a nightmare to track down, so I'm nowhere near sure, but I seem to suspect this amp more than anything else. I have wondered if it's the output section, which I'm guessing runs the 6v6 hot and everything else cool, and I was thinking that cool might change the earth somehow. No, probably not. You probably, if you're running 2 amps, you need to make sure your AB or ABY switcher has got a ground lift on it. Help yourself to the treats, they're very Moorish, and he has included a lovely bag, loads of them, of Polish toffee or fudge. Lovely. Nom, 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 nom. Okay, so plan for this amplifier then is to pull the chassis. We'll test everything. I need to look up from the manufacturer what the correct rectifier valve is. I don't think a 5Y3 is correct. It might be for 6V6s, but for everything else, I mean, I certainly wouldn't be running KT66s, EL34s and 6L6s with a 5Y3. Yeah, so it's probably very stressed, I would assume. So we need to get the thing apart, have a look. Then we'll get this thing fixed, go through it, give it a full health check, service, and see if we can make any other recommendations to get this amplifier back to being reliable for Andy. Okay, chassis removed from the cabinet. First thing we notice, it's got a massive classic tone power transformer. This thing is huge, monstrous. Are you sure this isn't a 4550 watt amp? It's got a JTM 45 style output transformer. That's the Mojo Tone font. So whether they got these from Mojo Tone or what, I don't know. I think they're Hayboas. I think this is a Hayboa unit. I'm not entirely sure. But you see it's marked 8K, so it's got an 8K primary. JTM 45 transformers come either in 8K or 6K6, depending if you're running KT88s or the earlier 5881s. Got a lovely choke here as well. Looks to be a classic tone as well. USA made. There's your sticker on the front. Serial number 212020. Does that mean it's the 21st amp built in 2020? Possibly. That's the date. Signed off, etc, etc. Okay. Let's get this thing flipped over and have a look. So here we go then. So we've got a turret board design, classic plexi style layout. not bad, not bad at all. A couple of things I would do differently, but it's mainly builder preference. But overall, this is not terrible. Pretty good, actually. So what do I see? Well, we've got the output valves are cathode biased, so they share a common... No, they don't. They've each got an individual resistor here, 600 ohms, which is chassis mounted, and then there's a bypass cap there going to ground. And this one's okay, but this one, see underneath the loop board, there's the other resistor, but the cap went bang. Okay, so definitely a valve failure. We're going to have to pull the loop out to have a good look. But apart from that, I don't really see anything going on that's, you know, a big cause for concern. So that's that. Rectification, I was having a look at this. So it's got a valve rectifier, but it's also got a string of diodes, and then you can select between the two using this switch as your output. Looking online, it says you can run either a 5Y3 or a GZ34, depending on the feel and response that you want. Now, I would probably, I mean, we can do some tests and things and work it all out, but I would argue that a 5Y3 on its own, in a cathode biased amplifier, probably can't supply enough juice to run the larger valve type. So I would run a 5Y3 with 6 V6s only and a GZ34 with everything else. But yeah, something went pop anyway. So that's the park. The website did say that the 18 watt version, which this is, still uses the full 45 watt transformers of the larger model, which is really interesting. So I'll be keen to see how this one performs. But not bad, not bad. Good quality components. No horrendous grounding mistakes that I can see. Not a lot of shielded cabling, but maybe the design didn't think it was necessary. Yeah, cool, right. Nice welded corners as well. We like welded corners on aluminium chassis. Good, you know, twisting and routing of wires. It's a nice amp, nicely built amp. I think these are around $3,500 US. So it's, you know, for that kind of money, you do have a right to expect a decent build standards. So there you go. Right, okay. So what I want to do is obviously test the rectifier valve, test the output valves. We need to remove the board, the FX loop, sorry, and just check all the components underneath here, make sure there's nothing else going on. And so we'll rectify that first. We'll do a soft start and see if we can go from there. You saw me earlier populating the board for Ed's custom build. Well, that's now done. Mounting holes are done, so that's now sitting in the chassis quite nicely. The eagle-eyed of you will have noticed that I've used a radial cap, a radial electrolytic here. I thought I had an axial in stock in that value, but I don't. So we're going to use a radial. There you go. So you see something new every day. But yeah, that's coming on really nicely now. So next job is to finish up my chassis wiring, do my underboards, my overboards, and my flying leads on this, and we can get that installed, wired up, and we're getting surprisingly close on this one now. Board is out. Quite a bit of unsoldering to do that, and we can finally get a good look at the damage. So here is the socket, and we're looking at pins 1 and 2. We've got the red wire going to our cathode bias resistor, And then here is our bypass cap, which went bang. We get you a better view on that. There you go. So that's popped. It's completely gone. And it's left all of your usual fluff and stuff. Okay, so let's get all of this cleaned up. A new capacitor soldered in place. I'll have to look at the one next door to work out what the value is. And then we can put it all back together. We'll test all these components and go from there. Okay, so I have replaced the capacitor that was popped. Here she is. Okay, and I don't know if you can see. I'll show you on the other one. It's a 22 microfarad, 25 volt capacitor. Okay. Now, I've currently got the amp fired up on the bench. No valve rectifier in, so we're running in solid state mode using the diodes. On restriction mode, across that cap is currently 20 volts. Okay. If I put it in full power mode, so I give the amp full voltage, bear in mind this is a 25 volt capacitor. .5 volts across there. No wonder that cap under the board went bang. Too much voltage going through it or across it. Unbelievable. What a poor design. So, I mean, I had installed another 25 volt cap to match this one, but not happy with that at all. So I'm going to pull this out again to put some 63 volt caps in because we need to make this thing proper and good. Not happy at all. Still need to test the old valve rectifier, but I would not run a 5Y3 with EL34s, KT66s, or 6L6s. Right, the 5Y3 is dead. Well, it's not dead, it's very low output, and I'm sure it's been heavily stressed. So I have fitted a GZ34 into the amplifier. So we're now running in GZ34 mode, putting out some nice output. Switch to high voltage mode. You get a slight boost in output. Okay. In GZ34 mode, got 35 volts across that cap. Now it's all warmed up. In solid state mode, 37. So no wonder those 25 volt caps, pop their clogs. Anyway, just going to leave that burning in, soak testing, whatnot, but this one's done. Sorted. Not much to report. Good news, I'm going to call customer, let him know what I think. Back on the AC10, I've just been doing some idiot checks, just in case I forgot something, or I overlooked something, or I made an assumption that I shouldn't have. Because you know my rule, if something doesn't make sense, it's either that you've made an incorrect assumption or that you are missing a piece of information, right? So let's go back over it, do all our checks again. So I've currently been scoping the output, the output stage of the amplifier. So here we are. I've got one probe on the control grid of the EL84 and one on the anode. And here we are on the screen. Purple is the input, yellow is output. The waveforms aren't relative to each other in terms of amplitude. It's just to make it easier to see on the screen. But if I turn the volume control, you can see as the input gets lower, the output gets lower. You increase it. So we're getting, if I have my input at 2 volts, we get an output on that side at least of 19.5 volts, so almost a factor of 10. But as we increase the input voltage, so we've got 5 volts there. Now we're getting 35 volts on the output. So what's that? 7 times? we bring it up. Now we're getting full time. So it's kind of tracking as you kind of expect cathode bias output stage to work. The same happens on this valve here. So although this socket, I should say, has slightly more amplitude than this one, even though all the operating voltages and resistors and everything are the same, and it's not the valve. So when I swap the valves over, that socket stays gainier. That's what we're going to call it, compared to this one. But it's not by much. It's, you know, it's a slight discrepancy, but it's not over the top. So I'm still struggling to work out why I'm getting such low. I'm getting correct output from the valve side of the output transformer, but coming out on the secondary, it's such a low signal. You know, should be getting 10 watts. So 10 watts will be around 9 volts AC, and we only get around 2 before it starts to clip. So this is down on power, but I've taken all my measurements. And each valve side is the same. I'm getting pretty much equal amplification into the between each output valve. Roughly the same in the phase inverter. So it's all working as it should be, as far as I can work out for the time being. I'm still suspecting the output transformer, but I have no evidence for that, because as you remember in the last video, we tacked in a replacement and had no improvement. Both channels are the same, by the way. Both of them output the correct voltage. It's all good all the way through, and we get to this point, it's good. On the other side, it's not. So things I need to check is that there's not a short to ground around here. So I have to do some checking there. But I'm quite stumped at the moment. The amplifier seems to be performing as it should do. All of the voltages are ever so slightly lower, but within kind of tolerance. So it's not that. I'm really struggling to work out what's going on. So I need to check the secondary side of the output transformer again, just in case there's something weird going on. There is no negative feedback. The only thing, if I scope both outputs, let's get them on the same voltage range, 10 volts. So as I said, one of them is slightly has slightly more output than the other. But if I turn the tone control, the master tone, which as you can see is a cross line, on the output of the phase inverter, we've got a 250k pot in series with a 4N7 cap. As I turn that up, we should get more treble. But what we're actually getting, let me go up now, you see there's a bit of oscillation there, a bit of noise. We actually get reduced output. So we're currently fully clockwise. Turn it all the way back round and we gain output when it's on its lowest setting. So I need to investigate that, make sure that's working right, because maybe that's interfering with something. But that's the only thing I've found, to be honest. It's being a bit of a pain. So, but I need to get this thing sorted, because I'm pretty sure if this is how it's always been for as long as this customer's owned it, he's never heard it performing as it should. So maybe he won't sell it and or want to keep it. But yeah, more investigation required. Well, that's it then, guys. Thank you very much for watching once again. The park is all boxed up and awaiting courier collection. The customer on the JCM 900 has given approval for the filter can replacements, which I've actually run into a little bit of a trouble on. So I've pulled the old cans out, and they measure, the stock size is 35mm, but these ones measure 35.6. The replacements I've got, these ones from Tube Amp Doctor, measure 34.6.7, which means with the clamps that the Marshall originally came with, completely tight, done up tight. Can't talk. It doesn't actually clamp the can. So I can either do what I wanted to do on the Vox, which was a bit of heat shrink over there, or maybe we'll try a different brand. But isn't that interesting that the size of the cans varies just enough that that's not going to hold it tight. No good. Rubbish. So please give this video a thumbs up. Would you please put all your comments and questions down below for next week's Q&A. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell. Join the channel like these guys have. Got a new channel member this week, so thank you very much, and I will catch you all at the next one.